Hello viewers, welcome back to Daily Retro. Today we've got another episode of retro gaming news and additions for you guys. We've got some really special items this month. I'm really excited to share some of them, but we'll find out those at the end. I'll save the best for last. But without further ado, we'll get into the news. So only a couple pieces of news this month. There's been sort of interesting pieces that I'm going to talk about, and then sort of at the end we're just going to talk about the sort of retro gaming hardware landscape, if that makes sense. But without further ado, so there's a new adapter by Humble Bazooka. I've mentioned them before. They make Bluetooth adapters primarily. They've now made a Sega Saturn Bluetooth controller adapter. This is soon going to be available to resellers, so it will be available very soon. Potentially even as you're watching this, because this is being recorded a week prior. So a link for that will be in the description. And again, it's really nice to see that companies like Humble Bazooka are putting effort into making adapters like these so you can use custom Bluetooth controllers with your old consoles. They also, Humble Bazooka, have a sort of tendency to do really nice 3D printed cases for them, so they look nice as well aesthetically. So that's really nice to see, and they're generally priced fairly reasonably as well, between sort of the $20 and $30 mark. So I'll be interested to see those. I'm not a Sega Saturn owner myself, but I just thought it'd be interesting for the people that are. And then the second piece of news is much more interesting, to be honest. I've toyed with the idea of getting an original Xbox many a time. I don't know why I haven't sort of bitten the bullet yet. It might be financially because there's so many good mods coming out, which leads me on to the news. So Make Megahertz, who have made the Xbox HDMI kit before. This is actually a solder mod to your original Xbox to make it pure HDMI out. They've now made a board called the Project Stellar. So this is basically like a BIOS replacement for the original Xbox that's much more intuitive and powerful as to what it can use hardware wise. Basically this is a board that you would install onto your Xbox motherboard. It's got a direct connection to, if you've got the Xbox HDMI kit as well, you don't have to have it, but it has a wired connection to that as well if you have both. And then obviously that gives you more options with controlling the Xbox HDMI sort of through your controller. But this is sort of a custom OS, BIOS build, whatever you want to call it. And it enables you to utilize many other features of the Xbox, sort of doing FPGA emulation, certain things, and being able to run games from a micro SD card on it as well. And it just has IO expansion boards as well, so basically any mods that Make Megahertz will make in the future will be compatible with this board. So there must be big plans in the future for other mods. So definitely one to keep an eye on. A link for that would be in the description. And if you've got any experience with the Xbox HDMI kit as well, please do let me know in the comments. And then finally is not really news as such on a new product front. It's more on the sort of analog side of things. So analog I've chatted a lot about in the past. And I've seen a lot of chatter away in the past few weeks on the final run of the Super MT and the Mega SG, basically the Super Nintendo and the Mega Drive hardware emulation consoles. So they've been shipped now to most customers who pre-ordered them. That was their final run, but there's been a lot of talk because the hardware inside these new units has actually changed from the previous, which is very, very odd, because people have pointed out that a analog page states that there is no hardware changes to either of these consoles, and yet people have stripped them down and found they are different. Obviously they function in the exact same way, but people are finding that they now have to find or wait for a different jailbreak if they want to run jailbreak software. And why wouldn't you on that sort of console if you want to download or use a ROM or or even rip a ROM from one of the consoles from your cart, sort of to expand the functionality of those consoles. But you'll find that people are finding that because of the hardware changes in these consoles in this last run, you cannot backdate the firmware, which means you can't jailbreak it. Obviously, there probably will be a jailbreak by the time this video goes out for it, but it's just interesting to see that sort of thing. Why Analog aren't more sort of honest with customers is a bit strange and a bit shady, to be honest. But let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments. And without further ado, we'll get into the edition side of this episode. So we've got some really awesome pickups this past month. It was my birthday 3 weeks ago when this goes out. That was my 30th birthday, so I said to my wife, as the little ones at nursery that day, because it happened to be a Tuesday, we'll go to Old School Gaming, which is an absolutely awesome shop. Really enjoy going to his shop, and this is actually a new location. I've done a video on it previously, but yeah, really enjoyed the shop and picked up a lot of really good items. So yeah, we'll start with the oldest, I think. Yeah, we'll start with the oldest. So the oldest is actually one that is it's not an amazing condition, but that is Top Gear Rally 2. Obviously, Top Gear Rally 1 is a very common N64 title. Top Gear Rally 2, from what I understand, is more sort of traditional rally game-esque, where it has sort of co-driver calls for everything in stage modes and everything, not just sort of just racing like the first game. So looking forward to playing that. It is a bit scratched up, but as I've been trying to find this cart for quite a while, I was more than happy to pick it up with a few scratches on the sticker. Still plays absolutely perfectly. And then we've got a couple of PS2 titles. One of them is just a replacement for a Platinum title that I didn't want to be Platinum on the shelf. So that is Juiced. Really enjoyed this arcade racing game when I was younger. It is really out there. There's no sort of realism to it. It's just an insanely fun arcade racing game, but surprisingly hard to find in good condition. And Rich it looks absolutely incredible inside and out. And then finally on the PS2 front there is Jack X, which I've never played before. I was just keen to get this to complete the sort of Jack and Daxter PS2 collection. It's a combat racing game, so sort of Mario Kart style. But look forward to playing that multiplayer with the wife at some point. And then we've got a very nice copy of Mario Strikers Charged Football. So I do enjoy playing this on the GameCube. I don't have a physical copy on the GameCube, which is part of the reason I bought this. But it'd be nice to play on the Wii, I think, and it supports controllers and the Wiimotes, obviously. So it'd be fun to play that. That was very cheap. All of these games were less than a £5 so far. And then finally we've got a couple of barely modern games. So as you know, I'm very much into my RPGs. This RPG has been recommended to me many a time, and that is Kingdom Come Deliverance. So this is sort of an indie title from what I understand, but it's a first person RPG with a really good story and really good combat. So I'm looking forward to playing that. It's a studio I've never heard of before, so I'm going to get into that very soon, and hopefully I'll be able to do a review of it at some point. And then finally is a sealed trilogy. So that is the Mafia trilogy. So obviously Mafia is set in like the 1940s, I think it is, possibly even the 50s. Well, it says on the back actually. His first game is set in the 30s, second is 1940s, and third is the 60s. But I've recently completed LA Noire by Rockstar, and I really enjoyed that sort of landscape when I was playing an open world game, sort of oldie worldy from 100 years ago now, isn't it? So yeah, I really enjoyed that, so I think I would enjoy the Mafia series. It's been recommended to me by other RPG sort of lovers as well, so really looking forward to playing that. That was probably the most expensive thing I bought at the shop, so that was £24 I think, which isn't bad considering it's brand new. And then finally just a couple of PS3 titles. So WRC 2, just for the Rally collection. Dirt Showdown, which does actually look quite interesting. I do absolutely love Dirt 3 on the PS3, so I'm pretty sure that was the game prior to it, so it should be good. And then finally, I think we've actually completed the sort of Dirt PS3 collection now with this, and that is Colin McRae Dirt 2 on PS3, which I've never actually played. I see it a lot, but it's hard to find in good condition, and again, this was in really nice condition. And then finally is a couple of pickups from eBay, which are sort of holy grail items for me. As many of you know, I absolutely love Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. It's one of my favourite PS3 titles ever made, one of my favourite games ever made even. I think in the last few months I have sort of thought to myself, what is the one game I would take to a desert island and I would not get bored of playing? And I think it is Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. They did release it recently on PS4, which was called Re-Reckoning. I think that was in 2018. But these items that I'm about to show are from the sort of PS3, Xbox 360 era when it originally got released. So I have an alert on eBay for sort of merchandise for this game, because there's not a lot of it out there. As some of you may know, it was sort of a studio that collapsed very quickly after the game got released, because they spent an awful lot of money getting the best people in to make the game. It sounds silly, but it obviously didn't sell well enough to keep the studio going. But they employed the services of the best-selling author R.A. Salvador, who's a very famous New York Times bestseller author of sort of other fantasy series. And also Todd McFarlane, who's a world-renowned sort of game artist, and Ken Rolston, who's one of the designers on Elder Scrolls Oblivion, so very well-known names there. But the first thing I got was something incredibly unique, so I do like to look out for unique items, because obviously it's nice to have something that not many other people have. I'm not many sure how many of these are in the world. I would have thought less than 100. So this is an item from E3 2011, so what, 12 years ago now. I would have loved to have gone to E3, I believe it's stopped now. But when this game was announced at E3 2011, this was a promo item given out. So this is basically cards. These cards in the game are sort of your chosen path as to what you want to be. So there is Rogue and Mage and Fighter. Obviously there are sort of sub series of those styles of play, but yeah, these cards were in the packet you saw, only given to sort of people who had come to the E3 stall and played this game for a little bit, just to sort of get a demo of it. It wasn't too expensive on eBay. I think I paid about £40, and it was from America. And I didn't have any additional sort of import fees, which you may think is a lot just for a few cards, but this is a unique item that is very hard to find. When I spoke to the seller, he said he only had one other set and he'd never ever seen anyone else selling them, so that's a really nice item to get, and that will be going up on the wall somewhere. But the last item is something that is definitely a holy grail. I saw this poster and I thought, wow, it's just incredible. It's got signatures from all of the people that I've aforementioned that worked on this game. I'm not even sure we can able to fit on the camera because it's like A2 size. I think it's 90 by 60 centimeters. But it is a promo poster that got sent out to game shops when this game was pre-release or in pre-order mode. So here we go. I think we're going to struggle to get it in the camera, to be honest. And it does glare to be honest, because we've got light behind us. But as you can see, it's absolutely massive. I can't quite believe it's in my collection now, to be honest. It's insane. I'll show up a full image sort of as we go along. But as you may have seen, even it has signatures from Todd McFarlane, who I mentioned, Kurt Schilling, who was the sort of main guy at Big Huge Games, signatures from R.A. Salvador and Ken Rolston as well. Only 1,500 of these posters were made, and only I think only about 25 were actually signed by all 4 of these people. I have a certificate that I conveniently left behind. So this actually came with it, and this is like a JSA certification for it. I'm not sure if the camera's going to focus, but anyway, that came with it because I asked the seller obviously lots of questions about this item. I said where did it come from? He said when Big Huge Games was going out of business, they had to sell their assets, and these posters were part of the assets that were sold. So all 25 of the posters were signed by the people I aforementioned, and he bought the lot, and that was in Rhode Island in America. So it's something that I would have never been able to get over here at the time. Only 1,500 of those posters were actually produced as well for game shops, but obviously, as I mentioned, only 25 were actually signed by these people. So to have something that unique in the collection is really, really epic. It's actually going to go sort of where my Pokemon N64 poster was, just because it's more of a game that's close to my heart. It is my favourite RPG I've ever played. I've completed it 3 times, and I never get bored of it. It's just an amazing game, and yeah, to have something like that in collection is really rewarding, I think. And to find out about it was nice as well. The seller was more than happy to send me details of how he got it and the sizes and such. I believe he still is selling some on eBay. So if you are after one, then please do make him an offer for one. I made a best offer on it, thinking that it was nowhere near enough, and it got accepted, so I was really chuffed with the price actually. I won't say how much it was because it was a fair bit, but I've sold a couple of bits just to pay most of the way towards it. But yeah, really chuffed with that, and I don't know how I'm going to top that, to be honest. But I hope you're all well. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you very soon. Cheers.